Gambia's Independent Electoral Commission released the latest voter registration update after week 5 of the voter registration exercise. Gambia's Chief of Defense Staff visited the governor of West Coast region as part of his nationwide tour. And the Interior Minister appeared before lawmakers in Banjul to respond to concerns of the country's security. Well, these and more coming ahead in Gambia 24. It's 1933 from our studios in Banjul. This is iAfrica TV and many thanks for joining us. I am Amadou Kante and now the news in detail, and we begin with matters of the electoral process in the country because over 700,000 Gambians have been registered to acquire voting tickets ahead of the crucial 4th December presidential elections, the Independent Electoral Commission has announced. This massive number was registered after 5 weeks of voter registration exercise. According to the IEC, the process is going smoothly and they might reach the targeted number before the stipulated deadline. Asadi Chow has more of that in this report.
The voter registration process started on the 29th of May 2021 and it is expected to last until 11th of July. With a population of over 2.3 million people, only 70% of eligible Gambians have registered their votes for the 2021 presidential election. This translates to about 700,000 voters. The Independent Electoral Commission intends to issue about 1 million voter cards before the deadline. Parmakan Khan, the communication officer of IEC, said the registration process is progressing smoothly and he is positive that before the final week, the IEC will reach its targeted number.
Yes, I think it's going fine. It's progressing smoothly, and right now we are in the week 5 of the process, the 5th week of the voter registration, and it's just in the last quarter of the voter registration exercise. I would say it's going smoothly despite some few challenges we're facing currently. This was the 4th week figures. The figures related to the 4th week. That's the over 700,000. So we expect to receive the 5th week by Friday. This Friday would mark the end of the week 5. So I would say we have 2 more figures left. We have the figures for the 2 remaining weeks. So based on that fact, I would say it's likely that we would meet the target of registering 1 million voters.
According to reports, some political parties and stakeholders have pleaded with the Electoral Commission to extend the voter registration beyond the allocated date. But Mr. Khan believes that it's not necessary to extend the voter registration deadline. According to him, registration centers are less busy and are quite sure that before the allocated date, all eligible Gambians will have their voter cards.
I don't think it will be necessary to extend the date, because currently, judging by the environment, most centers you visit are not quite busy, especially in the rural areas. Like, for example, where I am here in the North Bank region, most centers you go, you will find less than 20 people. So, in a sense, I would say that most people have been registered. But nonetheless, I know in the Comoros, some areas are still experiencing high turnouts. And I would say, based on that fact, if need be, some of the teams which are less busy may be shifted to those high demanding areas. So based on that fact, again, I would say it may not be necessary to extend the voter registration exercise beyond the 11th of July, because I'm sure by which time all eligible Gambians would already have been registered.
Registration of voters begin every electoral cycle, where eligible citizens are provided with a voting ticket to vote for a candidate of their choice. The December 4th election is crucial as it will be the first time that Gambians will elect a president without Jammeh as a candidate in about a quarter of a century. For iAfrica News, Aissatou Chow.
Over 700,000 Gambians have acquired their voters' cards or voting tickets ahead of the December 4th presidential elections, according to the Independent Electoral Commission. Now, on his second phase of the nationwide military tour, the Chief of Defense Staff of the Gambia Armed Forces, Lieutenant General Yakuba Drame, has paid a courtesy call to the Governor of West Coast Region. The discussion was centered on the work of the military and how peace could be maintained both in pre- and post-elections. Mariama Cham has more details of that in this report.
The Gambia is going into tough times as elections of presidential, legislative and local government approaches. Many feared for violence as the peace of the country could be fragile in the upcoming elections if any indifferences is displayed among Gambians. In his nationwide tour, CDS Drame has been constantly calling on Gambians to maintain peace as tribal and political sentiments can cause instability in the country. Having been into peacekeeping missions in countries of conflict, the Army General explains how the country could suffer in the hands of civil war if tribal sentiments is given a chance.
Imagine the Gambian situation. What do we have? Gambia is poor. Let's say outrightly poor. Gambia, we are dependent on one AIDS. Assuming there is a crisis in this country, let's say for instance, 2 days into the crisis, how many of you would survive? Let's assume there's a war, civil war, because of senseless tribal sentiments or reckless decision in the context of tribal sentiments. If there is a crisis in any given country, one, all the shops would close. The markets would close. Everything basically would come to a standstill, including transportation. In the Gambia context, how do we survive?
The chairman of the Brikama Area Council, Sirifo Sonko, called on the military to safeguard the peace in the country, saying the military should not allow politicians to use them for their political gains.
The Gambia, men and women in uniform, we are now in politics. We as politicians may want to use you, our sisters, our brothers, to cover us in our politics. You are not there for that. You are there for the Gambia, our country, our beloved nation. And I challenge you to maintain what you have been doing before. We are so much proud of you, and we believe you are going to be loyal to your country. You are going to be loyal to the leadership of this country. Without loyalty, I don't think we will be able to live harmoniously in our dear motherland. The Gambia is known as a smiling coast of Africa.
Lamin Sane, the governor of West Coast Region, says the only way to secure the country is through dialogue and collaboration. Governor Sane adds that there should be no atmosphere for violence instigation in the country.
I've also been following remarks about what sort of sentiments we're observing in the security sector, that is especially on the social media platforms. There should be no room of trying to instigate anything of violence in this country. You are soldiers with a difference. You are soldiers of professional training with high academic qualification. And most of you have left this country to go outside for peacekeeping missions. And those peacekeeping missions, you've learned experiences. You see so many things, and you can tell people about those histories.
With the December polls fast approaching, the political atmosphere is already booming with different political parties emerging to contest the presidential seat for a 5-year mandate. With regards to past experience of the political impasse and other political tensions that has gripped the nation's peace, the Army General deemed it necessary to engage both the military, religious and the community elders to maintain peace and tranquility. The country's army chief also warned the men and women in uniform to do away with tribal sentiments as it could generate precedents in the Gambia, especially with the tension of the upcoming elections. Reporting for iAfrica News in the West Coast region, I am Mariama Cham.
The Chief of Defense Staff there, who of course meeting the West Coast region officials as part of his ongoing nationwide tour now to matters of COVID-19, because the emergence of the COVID-19 pandemic has disrupted the educational system in many countries, including the Gambia. With the close of schools across the country during the peak of the pandemic, the performance of schools' children seriously deteriorated. Now parents are worried. One of them told iAfrica TV that she is concerned of her child's performance due to the lack of regular school attendance. I said to B.I. Kujabi has more details of that in this report.
In order to keep children safe from contracting the coronavirus, the Ministry of Education has limited the days in which students are supposed to go to school. In some schools in the Gambia, students attend classes only 3 a week, leaving some parents worried about the state of their children's educational outlook. Speaking to iAfrica TV, Rohisi, a parent, said the newly introduced school attendance system affected her child's performance. She appeals to the Ministry of Education to allow students to attend classes normally through the week.
Since grade 7. Because grade 7, 2 days they got them.
For my child, it has affected her a lot since grade 7 because that was the grade she was going for 2 days, Thursdays and Saturdays. So now they have changed that when they went to grade 8, this time is 3 days a week. She did not complete her syllabus in grade 7 and 8, and now what is she going to do when she reaches grade 9?
Fatma Tarawale, a grade 9 student of the New Life Academy Center, told iAfrica TV that the limited days that have been introduced are affecting them.
Yeah, it affects a lot, especially with the grade 9s. It affects us a lot. And we need a time, that it will favor us. A constant time, that Monday to Friday we should be coming to school. Because these 4 days of coming to school, due to that we are not able to even cover a lot of topics. So it won't even help us in our exams.
Despite the growing concern, the Deputy Permanent Secretary at the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education said not every school is affected by the new school restriction.
Like I said, we have what we call the alternation method or model, whereby certain children have to go for certain days and another group has to go for another number of days. But that is to affect only 23 schools nationally. And they are found mainly in the combos. Because even in Banjul, it used to be Gambia High School that was affected, and Muslim High School is not affected because the population is not much as it used to be. Schools like St. Teresa's, Ladrikunda, these are the big schools. And nationally, 23 of them were supposed to be doing that.
According to Mr. Job, the school restrictions are meant to protect students from contracting the virus, but admitted that it could also affect their academic performance.
Yeah, we would say it has, because when you look at the contact hours, as I said, internationally, we're talking about 888 hours that children need to have contact with their teachers in every academic year. Now, obviously, if you were supposed to be going 5 and now you are going 3 days, for example, you're losing some time. So that would actually affect your contact time. And the fact that your contact time is affected, we can assume very reasonably that it can affect academics.
After the country registered its first coronavirus case on 17 March, schools, lumos, bars, nightclubs and other public places were closed to minimize the spread of the virus, which claimed at least 117 lives in the country. The Gambia has made important gains in ensuring access to education, but now the focus falls on learning outcomes, which is a huge challenge in the educational efforts to ensure quality education for all Gambian children. For iAfrica News, I am B.I. Kujabi.
The impact of the COVID-19 affected different sectors in the country, including the education sector. Well, you're watching the Gambia 24 News Bulletin live on iAfrica TV. Stay with us. We are taking a short break and come back shortly with the remaining of the stories. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
The pride we take in our brand, the work we put into constantly change the landscape and elevate real estate in the Gambia. It's compared to none. From inception, our goal was to add value to the beautiful Gambian landscape. That's why we are proud innovators of community estates. Kololi Sands is an exceptional piece of work, tailored for ultimate convenience and luxury, to bring you an element of finesse that is rare but unique in its own. This is also our pride and joy, and we welcome you to the exquisite beauty right here in Kololi and right here on the waterfront. Kololi Sands, feel the ocean breeze at your doorstep.
Welcome back, and once again, many thanks for joining us. And now to the rest of the stories. And we do matters of the National Assembly now, because Gambian lawmakers summoned the Minister of Interior, Yakuba Sanko, to appear before the National Assembly to answer questions about security-related matters. Key among them is the suspected case of 2 men who were killed in the community in Nyamina Dankonka and brutalized by unknown persons. Binti Jallo tells us more of that in this report.
The Gambian Interior Minister appeared before the lawmakers last week to answer questions regarding cases of suspected murders. One of the questions was raised by the Nyamina East representative, Omar Sise. He asked the Interior Minister about the case of 2 men who were killed in the community of Nyamina Kudang and brutalized by unknown person. It could be recalled that Kudang police station received suspected murder cases and assault causing grievous bodily harm between August 2020 and February 2021. One of the suspected murder cases occurred on the 15th of August 2020. And the deceased was identified as one Guinean national called Nyancho, a suspected lunatic found lying in an unfinished building with bruises on the head and was taken to the Kudang Health Center where he was pronounced dead. The Interior Minister said no arrest was made and investigations are still ongoing. He further stated that in the second suspected murder case, which involved one Bambo Dabo's death, investigations are still ongoing. However, 4 individuals were arrested for being with the deceased on the night the alleged murder occurred. The third case involved one Keba Faye, a suspected lunatic also from Senegal. He was found laying with serious injuries on his jaw and was then rushed to the RVTH for treatment and later discharged. While answering questions from lawmakers at the National Assembly, the Interior Minister said they are doing everything possible to stop crimes in the country, adding that they have also introduced community policing to sensitize the citizenry.
Thank you very much. We have already developed the Gambia Police Force UNDP community policing strategy, and then it's in the high gears at now. Because the motivative aspect of it and encouragement aspect of it is going to be sponsored most likely by the UNDP, so that at least to facilitate their movement and also to organize forums where certain expenditures will be incurred and then can be paid for. Because if you need to go to communities, you have to sit with them. And the time that you sit with them, you have to at least cater something for them. At least during that, if it's refreshment or food for the time that they are going to be with you. So that's the strategy that we raised, and it's going to be supported by the UNDP. Thank you.
According to the minister, there was high increase in criminal activities in the country. Hence, they had to launch Operation Zero Crime to target criminal hideouts within the Greater Banjul areas and Kanifi Municipal Council. With the acquisition of more government funding, it was later expanded to other regions, and the positive outcome of the operation is the gradual decline of crime rate in the country. For iAfrica News, Binta Jallo.
Gambia's Interior Minister is responding concerns of national security before lawmakers in Banjul. Finally tonight, the Africa Center for Disease Control and Prevention has shown dissatisfaction and disappointment with the European Union regarding access to COVID-19 vaccines. During its weekly press briefing on Thursday, the Africa CDC called on EU to stay away from policies that will complicate the fight against coronavirus. The CISE tells us more of that in this report.
Given the worrisome trajectory of COVID-19 vaccine distribution across the world, the Africa Center for Disease Control and Prevention is disappointed with the European Union for marginalization of the African continent. So far, about less than 1% of the African population has been vaccinated, thanks to unequitable distribution of vaccines globally. In what appears to be adding some salt into the injury, the European Union chose not to recognize vaccines administered in Africa, including the AstraZeneca, for travel pass within the EU. This move, according to the Africa CDC, might make vaccine provision for Africa even more harder, because the continent depends on these supplies under the WHO COVID-19 provision. In this slide, the Director of Africa CDC, John Kensong, called on the European to do away with principles that will make it further difficult to fight COVID-19.
A vaccine that has been supported by the Europeans and supported by COVAX, supported by WHO, will not be allowed to be on the list of vaccines that were recognized through the Green Pass process in Europe. We've always said when this pandemic started, that we should always use science, data, to drive decisions. And I don't think this is one that was based on science and data, because if you look at the neutralizing antibody levels, which all these vaccines are generating against the spike protein, that the vaccine, that is the AZ vaccine produced in India, produces very high neutralizing antibodies. I think that is what, if they were producing less quality neutralizing antibodies, you probably argue that based on that, they are not fit to be recognized. So we are really calling on the European to stay away from such policies that will further undermine and make it difficult for us to fight this pandemic.
The zooming tough policies from the EU regarding global fight against COVID-19 appear to be a reminder of lessons learned that Africa cannot depend on countries for vaccine. John faced the pressure to assure that Africa can eliminate the pandemic by the end of next year, pending the availability of enough vaccines.
The fact of the matter is the EU has vaccine factories. It has vaccine production centers across Europe. Not a single dose, not one vial, has left a European factory for Africa. Okay, when we've gone to talk to their manufacturers, they tell us that they are completely maxed out, meeting the needs of Europe. We are referred to India, okay, where a number of manufacturers exist that are manufacturing vaccines like the AstraZeneca vaccine under license. Okay, so Europe has to decide. You can't say you support us. They have vaccinated so many of their own people that they can now watch football without masks. Okay, our people have not been vaccinated. Less than 1% of our population has been vaccinated.
Strive Masiwa, the coordinator of African Vaccine Acquisition Team, expressed Africa's disappointment with the European Union for the fact that not a single dose has left European factories for Africa.
First of all, let's remain optimistic that the efforts that people like Strive, Professor Benedict Orama, Dr. Vera Songwe, and others are doing, working every night and from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. to acquire these vaccines would yield fruits. That way, in the next 12 months or so, we vaccinate at speed and at scale. If we do that, and the population cooperate. And I did share some information with you today on how much countries are using their vaccines, which is a very good indicator of that. If we have a predictable supply of vaccines, the vaccines will be used, then we can defeat this pandemic. We can break the backbone of this pandemic by the end of next year.
As of July 2021, 5.5 million COVID-19 cases have been reported across the continent. This figure accounts for 3% of the total cases reported globally. Over 142,000 Africans have died from the virus, while 4.8 million people have recovered since the start of the pandemic. Reporting for iAfrica News, I am Daisy.
The Africa CDC seems to be not happy or impressed with the EU and its dealings or handlings of policies in the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. And with that report there from Daisy, we finally bring this Gambia 24 News edition to an end. But for more details on this and other stories, as always, as ever, you can visit on our website on iafrica.tv for more details. But that's it for tonight. Many thanks for joining us, and we wish you a very pleasant night. Bye for now.